Did you know, William, that we humans, William,
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm waiting. What?
love to measure shit? Not measure shit, although shit as well, but measure shit.
No, I'm sure that's one of the things. I don't doubt. I love measuring.
You do.
I'm just gonna. This is listener our first episode back since our summer break, and summer here in the Southern Hemisphere includes Christmas.
Yes, it
and,
does.
And do you want to play Guess What Will got for
Yes.
for Christmas? That
New batteries for your sex toy.
no, it wasn't. You might say it is because it wasn't batteries, but I got the best possible caliper. And okay, they're not the best possible calipers because maybe there's like
Calipers.
atomic calipers, but I got electronic calipers that are stainless steel and beautiful, and they measure down to 1/100th of a millimeter. And I'm like, this is what I need
For all your nanotechnology needs.
I love calipers.
What are you measuring?
Stuff.
How did you know this is going to be about calipers? Like, get out of my head. We're also recording about, 12 hours after, what was that idiot's name again?
I don't know.
The former fuckwit in charge of that big country dissolved in a pile of his own orange fluff. So that's pretty cool.
Cool. Anyway, measurement.
Measurement.
He likes to measure. Maybe.
We do. Like, we measure heaps of stuff. We measure, like, we measure caliperistic things.
Yeah, like width of cables or screws or nails or things like that.
Oh, now I want them.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and we also measure what? Height, length, wavelength, IQ. We measure wealth. We measure
Girth.
success. Girth, definitely girth. Well, that's width. No, it's not really. We even measure physical attractiveness. We measure attitudes. We go as far as we want. We measure social beliefs. But one of the really popular ones that we've been doing for quite a while is body temperature.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
We do like a bit of that. So when you're a kid and you felt sick, I'm guessing
Check your temperature.
Yeah, your mother or your father, they touch on the forehead and go, you don't feel warm.
I am regularly. Like
You do
that
it too?
as a parent thing, as soon as I'm feeling a bit something and it's not the hand anymore, you get the back of the wrist sort of thing.
Well, not the fist. It looked like you punched them.
Just punch them straight on the
You
forehead.
sick anymore? No, Dad.
You knocked it out
I
of
feel
me.
fine.
Thanks. No, that's where you're sensitive to the temperatures. Give it a check.
I thought you use your elbow like you do with baby's bathwater or something.
Yeah, elbow.
Yeah, you just touch the head with your elbow, not too quickly.
I don't know about that.
But so that was pretty common. If you wander into a doctor and you say, look, I feel sort of randomly unwell, or in a hospital, one of the first things they'll do is check your temperature.
Yeah.
If you actually checked into hospital, regardless of what's wrong with you, they'll wake you up and they'll give you many times a day, they'll give you OBS.
But it doesn't tell, of course, I mean, you're probably going to tell this, it doesn't tell you everything, but it certainly tells you something.
Tells you everything.
It tells you something, though. It tells you, if someone comes in and their body temperature is 40 degrees Celsius, you're like, okay, cool.
What's wrong with that?
50 degrees Celsius.
What's wrong with that?
60 degrees.
So
you say it's time to do something about
You're a
that.
temperature bigot.
I'm not. I'm not.
Do you hate the creatures at the thermal vents?
No, I'm just here to help.
You are helpful. You are a very good helper. But, it happens all the time. And since COVID, body temperature's become like the it metric. I was just in tiny little Canberra, very safe, pretty much COVID-free Canberra, went to the Mac store, the Apple store, and they, temperature gun you before you walk in.
Yep.
And they make you wear a mask, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought, wow, this really matters. So body temperature matters a lot. And everyone basically knows what body temperature should be. 37 degrees or 98 if you live in the mid-20th century. Or
No,
whatever,
like 36 point something.
Yeah, or 37.1, but it's...
36.8, something like that.
Wow, you're an expert.
Am I ruining this for you?
Not at all.
The big scandal that is it's not 37?
No, it's 36.7. And of course, so we all know this, roughly speaking. Anyone who's vaguely sentient adult has, if you say, what's human body temperature supposed to be?
Yeah, sure.
People go, 37.
Yeah, it's one of the
98.
facts that you're given in primary school.
Yeah. And we know that if your temperature goes too low, you're friggin' die.
Sure, yeah.
Although there's a great one. Anna Bangenholm, according to NPR documentary, Anna Bangenholm, she's a Swedish medical student. She spent 80 minutes under the ice after a skiing accident in Norway.
Oh, I'm guessing not deliberately, seeing as you said accident. Well, you said medical student, spent 80 minutes under the ice, and at that point you could say, is this some sort of challenge? Then
what I'd like to test is, how much can I take?
I'm sure there are people, there definitely are people that do.
Yeah. Well, when she was rescued, her body temperature was 13.7 degrees.
Whoa.
And let's be clear for the people who are listening at home, we're not talking the ambient temperature, we're talking the temperature of your core, your body.
So they got the meat thermometer all the way in.
Yeah, they jammed it right up
It wasn't
there.
just the arm on the forehead.
No,
It was,
no elbows. This was, ram it straight through. So she was clinically dead. She was resuscitated, and she now survives with only minor nerve damage. So that's one of the lowest, if not the lowest, recorded survivals,
Wow.
13.7.
Wow.
I mean, in the wild, I know you can surgically do weird shit. Of course, if body temperature goes too high, you die.
What are we talking, 100 degrees here?
So the winner, 1980, a guy called Willie Jones of Atlanta. He was
Willie
admitted to
Jones.
hospital. Willie Jones.
Willie Jones of Atlanta. That's
Name?
awesome.
Willie Jones. Back the fuck off.
No doubt. He's got a truck. That sounds awesome.
Oh, he's got everything. Like, he could be, there's so many things he could be, and all of them are cool.
And yeah. We need a whole story around him. But anyway, what did he get to?
He went to hospital. He had heat stroke. His temperature was 46.1
Wow.
or 115 Fahrenheit. He spent 24 days in hospital and survived, and he's in the Guinness Book of Records, or at least he was last I checked. So highest recorded survived body temperature.
Yeah, okay.
Freaking hot. So some fluctuation is survivable, obviously. I mean, these are extremes, but it's not a great idea to fluctuate too much. Even a couple of degrees, either way, suggests there's something really wrong with you. So we're lucky, especially with COVID, that now we know precisely the right temperature a human should be.
Welcome to the Wholesome Show, the measurement-based podcast
Yes.
for people who sit up the back of the classroom.
And where we ask the measurement-based questions that you never thought to ask so that you do not have to.
Yeah, exactly. Like, can I have a metal ruler in shop, sir? Please, sir, can I have a metal ruler? No, you can't have the metal
Can
ruler.
I measure this with calipers? No, you can't, Jones. Willie Jones.
I'm going to bring my calipers out in a bit. I'll show you.
Please do.
They're so beautiful.
I'm a fan.
The Wholesome Show is me, Will Grant.
Me, Dr. Roderick Griffin, what a perfect temperature, Lamberts.
Perfect temperature.
People always say that about me. God, I don't
Do you
know
put
about
that
the rest of them.
on your dating profiles? It's
Yeah.
like, I have a perfect body temperature.
Well, my two New Year's resolutions for my bio are going to be award-winning
Sure.
and perfect temperature. And then the rest, CV stuff.
Yeah, I get it.
It's
I
going to
get
be
it,
award-winning, no other comment.
You might apply for a job, I don't know, but I do like the concept of reading a CV and everyone puts their career objectives or something like that, and you've just got, mine is to maintain perfect temperature.
Perfect
I
core
do
temperature.
maintain perfect core temperature.
That's what I do.
The Wholesome Show is brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science
And measurement.
and Measurement. Yeah.
KPI.
They're very close. Did you know
Science and measurement.
that they're very good friends?
Interrelated.
Yeah, they're little.
Some would argue without measurement, you don't have a lot of the science,
Oh my god.
the physical science.
Yeah.
The emotional sciences are different.
You're going to tell me. I'm hanging here like you've got something to tell me
I
about.
got something to tell you. Okay, I'm going to start with, a history lesson. History of the thermometer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you comfy?
I am.
It's not going to be the whole history, but I mean, it's
No, I
worth-
want it. I want it all.
Okay, get comfy. This is page 8 through 906. So around AD 170,
Sure.
Galen, not the elf, the Greek scientist and physician Galen.
I don't actually know an elf named Galen.
Do you?
No.
You don't watch elf shows, though, do you?
I don't. I do watch some elf shows.
You've never seen Galen the elf?
I know a little of the elf herbs.
So he made the first attempt at measuring temperature that was apparently on record, and it's delightfully vague. Like measuring it, not saying that's hot or cold.
So it's that late. So we knew, obviously we knew things were hot or cold before. Like
we're pretty good at
ancient
that.
Greeks, they're like, my God, it's hot. It's fucking hot today.
What's this? Fire. That's hot. What's this? Ice.
Cold.
It's cold.
Cold.
But he tried to kind of measure it at some level, kind of make a look over there as a temperature. And the only description I could find doesn't make a lot of sense. He documented a standard neutral temperature of equal parts boiling water and ice.
Okay. So somewhere between boiling and
Ice,
he's got
equal parts.
Yeah.
That's a neutral temperature.
Okay.
In case you were wondering. Thanks to the elves, now we know that.
That's neutral.
Yeah, and there was some talk about him doing something plus or minus a few degrees, but it wasn't even clear what a degree was. I don't think there were them then.
Well, surely if you haven't done measurement yet, degrees is a big jump further ahead.
It really is.
So I got some units, right?
Yeah.
Units, and it's like, what for? Well,
Measurement.
We use the units.
For measuring. We can compare things on these.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
things? No. Temperature.
Yeah, you can invent units for things that haven't been measured yet. I
Yeah.
don't know, you know,
Have you got any?
units for emotions or something like that. If we can't.
Hot, cold,
No.
slightly dirty.
I want millifeels,
Millifeel.
centifeels,
Oh, yeah.
maxifeel, kilofeels. That's a killer feel.
Killer feel.
or a megafeel.
I got the maxi
gigafeel.
feels when Donald Trump left the office.
That was a gigafeel.
That was a gigafeel.
That hit gigafeel.
Might have been hitting femta. Yotta. Isn't yotta a mega amount?
I think femto's
small.
tiny. Femto's tiny.
I had both. both ends of the spectrum. So that was a bit vague, but at least he had a crack. Good old Galen. And measuring temperature empirically is actually fairly recent, like actually trying to get some kind of angle. And so Galileo was messing around with thermoscopes.
So we're skipping 1,300.
Nothing happened.
1,300 years of nothing.
Nothing happened.
Nothing. They were just like, fucking hot, don't know how hot it is.
I got a bucket of water.
Yeah,
it's boiling. I got some ice.
Who can tell?
No one cares.
Is it about to freeze? Is it about to boil? No one knows.
Well, because we're, this is really going to be more about human body temperature and stuff. I thought there's only so much we need to know. I mean, there's some delicious... No, there's not. So Galileo, late 1500s-ish, he was playing with a thermoscope, which is essentially like a thermometer, but it has no scale. So you can kind of go, okay, that's hotter than that. That's objectively arm's length hotter than that.
It doesn't sound much more accurate than putting your finger in it, though.
Well, it might be, if it's close.
Like you put one finger in there and one finger in there, that's the hot one. And you call your finger now the thermoscope.
Yes.
Look how many Look how many thermoscopes I'm holding up.
I've got an 11th one. So
Stop it. Don't do that. Because that's not an accurate temperature measuring device.
More than a finger. How hot's that? Can you leave it in there? Not with this one.
No, not going to.
Not with this thermoscope. So there's no real exact temperatures, but they're sort of getting more precise at measuring that one's hotter than that one, or colder than that one, so they can get closer together, even beyond finger, perceptions.
I get the problem as well is often when they're measuring stuff, like it's which dog is bigger or which person is taller, they stay the same. So let's get everyone to line up and you stay still, and then we can start working out some measurements. The problem is that he's got these buckets of water and he's getting his stuff ready, and it's all changing on him.
It's all changing.
He's got to run around like a mad Italian Galileo person
in tights
and try to do the measurements quickly with his thermoscopes.
Yes. So the 10 buckets, 10 thermoscopes.
Yeah.
So a bit later, 1612-ish, another Italian called Santorio. Cool name. He added a numerical scale on his thermoscope, and he used it, or at least tried to take human temperature.
Is it one knuckle, two knuckles?
Yes, exactly. You're 2 knuckles hot. 1 knuckle, 2 knuckle is a different kind of measure.
Again.
So Ferdinand II, who was the Grand Duke of Tuscany, a bit later that century, mid-century 1600s, he invented the first enclosed thermometer. So they used to be sort of open, weird things. He actually closed up a vial or something, and he used alcohol. Not during the making of it, but he used alcohol in it to kind of somehow delineate.
I think I need to know more about the not enclosed thermometers now.
I think they're like your finger in open buckets, and
all right.
A horsehair bends more in one direction than the other, and this sort of thing.
Yeah, or you imagine you've got some mercury and it's in a bucket, and the mercury gets bigger, and it's like, well,
yeah, things like this. But this is actually an enclosed one. So good old Grand Duke of Tuscany, but it still had no standardized scale, and apparently wasn't very accurate. My question is, how do you know if it's accurate if it doesn't measure at all? It might be super accurate, you just can't tell. Whoa.
But what even is it?
Like, what even is accuracy?
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah, how do they know?
I'm throwing the script away, man.
It's not super accurate.
No.
If you can't tell, then it's not accurate.
Then it isn't.
It's not telling you anything.
That's true. If accuracy remains unmeasured,
it's like saying I typed all of the greatest novel ever into my computer, but I didn't have my keyboard plugged in. So it is the great. It's not. It's not actually there. You didn't.
You'd be pissed off, wouldn't you?
You would.
This is a really good poem.
This is the greatest song ever tribute.
Oh God, no. So around the same time, German physicist dude Daniel Gabriel Fahrenheit. Probably never heard of him.
Did he make up another scale?
No. He met Olaus Römer, a Danish astronomer.
No, I really hoped he was going to meet Olaus Celsius.
Like man, did those buggers fight. They hated each other.
Fahrenheit and Mr. Celsius.
Who do you hate more? I don't hate anyone except for that fucking asshole Fahrenheit. Celsius is a shit. So the Danish guy Römer developed an alcohol-based thermometer using wine. So apparently alcohol is the liquid, which obviously we now use mercury for, was popular. And he actually put 2 points on his thermometer.
We're back to alcohol.
Well, we're boosting on alcohol. It was a similar time to the Grand Duke of Tuscany putting booze in his. And he actually marked some points on it. So he used 60 to mark the temperature of boiling water and 7.5 as the point where ice melted.
Sure. So really, he just put some marks on it and then went and said, all right, let's go see what happens. All right, 7.5
I reckon he only knew what two numbers were. He only ever heard of 60 and 7.5. He knew one was lower.
They are awesome numbers. And maybe they were his favourite numbers.
That his lucky numbers.
It'd be rare that 7.5 would be your favourite number.
Oh, it's pretty good though.
It's mostly 17.
Everyone is 7. Everyone's lucky number is 7.
I heard 17. I think if you're allowed to go beyond 10.
No, that's not lucky.
If there's this thing where if you're asked to randomly name a number between 1 and 100, by far the most common is 17.
Well, that's just what I was thinking.
Exactly.
So he put on 2 numbers.
7.5 and 60.
Yeah. So
did he put the numbers in between them, or?
I don't think so. I don't know if there are gradations in any real way, but it's like that's your boiling water. No, that's your ice melting.
Surely. Is this literally it?
Don't get carried away with your over expectations. These are old people.
He literally wrote on his vial, all right, here's the numbers from 0 to let's go 80, and put it in and found, freezing is 7.5 and boiling is 60. So
I wonder. Did he put the numbers on first or not?
He must have done.
Because otherwise, why would you?
There's no way that you go, okay, frozen, that's 7.5. The only reason is the actual vial that he had. He put the numbers on first.
They're already on there.
Arbitrary. He
borrowed it from someone else, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
He repurposed his wife's perfume bottle.
Yeah, it was for measuring the volume of perfume.
So Fahrenheit went, Roma, you're a retard. That's his actual words. 1714, he refined it. So he developed the first modern thermometer. So he used mercury. And he noticed the mercury expanding and contracting as the temperature rises or falls. So he used mercury as the go-to liquid over booze. And 10 years later, he finally came up with a Fahrenheit scale, which he divided the freezing and boiling points of water into 180 degrees, because, of course, between the freezing and boiling points of water. And he decided that 32 degrees was the freezing point and 212 was the boiling point.
He didn't want to stick with 7.5 and 60? I mean, they're as random as...
Why don't I make it an apple and the colour blue? I mean, let's say the water is a fairly pivotal substance.
But maybe he cared about something else. Maybe there was.
I don't know what though.
Yeah, but maybe it was bananas. Like bananas are awesome to eat at 0 and terrible.
The tasty
at 100.
point of banana is 0 Fahrenheit. But I've never understood it. Like 32, that's freezing. Of course it is. At least 0, you kind of get it. And 100, that's how many fingers and toes we have.
You are just being a Celsius advocate, though.
I'm a base 10 racist.
Exactly. You don't know the joys of the Fahrenheit scale.
I really don't, actually. I'm like, it seems so annoying.
I read a tweet the other day that made a strong argument.
You read the whole one?
Yes,
Damn,
I did.
Man.
No, it made a strong argument for Fahrenheit above Celsius. And American listeners, those who use the Fahrenheit scale, you may still have these. So he was like, okay, scientifically, yes. If you're measuring stuff like boiling water and freezing water, it's good to know the 0 and the 100. He wasn't disputing that.
Yeah.
He was like, for human scale, it's far better to know, am I in the 60s? I might get these wrong because I don't use them.
Because who knows?
But I'm 60s, put a jacket on. In the 70s, okay, you're wearing jeans and a shirt, but in the 80s, it's starting to get hot. The 90s, you got to wear shorts. Like it's more, you got broad brush strokes that we don't have.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't. No.
If it's in the low teens, it's cold. If it's under 10, it's fucking cold.
No, but well, what's your shorts temperature?
15 to 18. It kicks in.
15 to 18. What are you, Brad Tucker?
I'm like a child.
Seriously, no, but shorts.
Shorts sort of kick in low 20s.
Yeah, for me they're like a 26. But see, there you go.
You're like, roughly. I don't say. If I'm just pulling a number out of the air, I know 26.1. But I just think it's funny because that argument's not good enough for me.
I know.
It just doesn't
but
hold.
What he was saying is that the one point that I take is the use of as a scientific thing where you need to measure stuff in the lab is a little bit different from measuring stuff in the human world. And I think there's some legitimacy to that point. In the same way that I think actually feet and inches is a better measure for height than centimeters. So
I'd rather be 6'1" than 185 because 185 to me still doesn't make sense.
There you go.
6'1", I go, I know how tall it is.
And you can get the feel, okay, that's a 6 foot-ish person, that's 5 foot. So there is some justice to
okay, now I'm
empirical
okay.
scale.
Now I can do it because for me that's always been the sticking point is height.
There you go.
Not length,
So
height.
So don't be a metricist to exclusion of all else.
I'm not height. I accept height. Of people, not buildings though. If someone says the building's 800 feet tall, I'm like, that doesn't mean anything.
That's dumb.
Then I need meters again.
No, I need it for cliffs as well.
Yeah, of course you do. So anyway, people have been playing with their temperature instruments for quite a while. But if we go back to body temperature, we need to talk about the guy, the man.
Mr. Body?
Yep, Mr. Temperature. Karl Reinhold August Wunderlich.
Wunderlich?
Yep, Wunderlich.
Wunderlich. His name is Wunderlich.
He's German. Are you laughing at the German people?
I know. What did his forefathers do that
They wondered what happens when you live. Karl Reinhold August Wunderlich. So Wunderlich.
Wunderlich. Let's go with Wunderlich.
So he's born in Germany, 1815.
Yep.
His father was a government physician who died quite young, 51. Young to me, old to you, we know how it is. Wunderlich was brought up by his French mother and grandmother, so he got right into French culture, and apparently he developed quite an aristocratic demeanour. So a bit of a ponce, a bit fancy.
Well, he had Von in his name, didn't he?
No.
Oh, he had a lot of names.
It feels like he should, though.
He had a lot of names. I thought there was Von in there somewhere.
Karl Reinhold, you could say von August, but it's not.
No, see, that's not a peasant name.
No.
Like there was no peasant back in, what year are we talking?
1815.
Okay, there's
They could only
not so many
afford 3
peasants.
names max.
So, exactly.
He had 4.
If you have 4 names and you're driving dray horses around,
You're fancy.
you did way too fancy.
You're fancy.
Too big for your britches.
You eat
but if
cake
you're a
with
fancy
different
guy,
flavours.
you need 4 or 5 names at least.
So he's got 4 and French ancestry, so that makes him pretty damn posh.
Okay.
So he developed this aristocratic demeanour, and he was at the Uni of Tübingen, where he did medicine, and his classmates called him the Marquis because he was so pretentious and fancy. So, hey, I'm the Marquis. So he finished medicine 1838.
It doesn't roll off your tongue, though.
Hi, the Marquis.
The Marquis. I mean, if you're saying you're going to go hang out at the Marquis' house, that's one thing.
But if you say it in German, Guten Tag, the Marquis, it's not that good. He bonded with a couple of bloody radicals there. Wilhelm Rosser and Wilhelm Reisinger. So the Will was very popular then.
No, it's a good name.
So he bonded with them, and they founded the Archives of Physiological Medicine in 1842. So I love it. You're at uni, you meet some shitbags, and you found an archive of physiological medicine.
That's what all the shitbags in our class love them to death. Sitting up the back, often founding archives.
I can't believe we haven't. I suppose by doing this a lot, we end up with archives.
To be honest, I was looking through an archive of someone that had done weird photos of throughout the Trump presidency, and I'm very glad that there are people that are collecting these things.
They're good photos
for later use.
They're very good photos. Now, the reason I call these guys radicals is because they joined what is, quote, the chorus of academic physicians clamoring throughout Germany for a new medicine based on scientific observation.
Stop it.
So in the past, the approach to medicine was a lot more... Literally, they called it philosophical.
More crafty.
Yeah, like, you've got the humours from the vapors from the bad attitude and the dude down the road
this is still in
his
the
sister's
era
husband.
where you're more about listening to people than you are about actually having a look at the body.
Ooh.
It's a useful thing.
I can listen and look at the body. New age guy.
You are.
I am. At the age of 31, he became the chief of medicine at the Tübingen University, to which I say, fuck, 31.
Yeah, there weren't so many people around then.
There was less medicine to learn too.
Yeah, exactly. You can nail it all in by the 22 or so.
Olden day people had less medicine. This is about philosophy, really. It's like, what do you reckon? So initially, the faculty were not happy because of his aristocratic demeanour. They didn't like that. The faculty went, no, he shouldn't be the head. And they also didn't like his, quote, patent disregard for the traditional philosophical approach to medicine. So,
Okay.
This is not how we've done it. So the hostility to his appointment at first was so fierce that the education minister of the Kingdom of Württemberg had to intercede, as happens so often in modern universities still. So he moved. He did that. He got the job. He stayed there.
So it's like the education minister checking up on the ARC grants. You know, this one is looking at bicycles, therefore it's no good. So
bicycles is shit. They should be coal-powered trucks.
Yeah.
Actually, it's more like the education minister coming in and saying that dude in chemistry shouldn't have been promoted or should have.
Okay, that's a bit more close, but it's an old school kingdom in Germany. So I don't know.
It's literally a kingdom.
And so I'm imagining it's one little city, and
like the kingdom of Württemberg probably has 8,000 people in it, but it mattered.
Yeah,
so
sure.
this august person who probably wore a fancy hat with feathers on it said, "Nah, leave the bugger in." So he stayed. Then he moved to Leipzig and he became full professor, medical director of the university, which is apparently a very prestigious chair in Germany. Leipzig University, big deal. And this is where he introduced clinical pedagogy.
Okay.
Or pedagogy, if you prefer.
No, I don't.
You don't want pedagogy?
No, just give me it straight.
Pedagogy.
Yeah, that'll do.
So pedagogy. And he combined this with rigorous methodology of diagnosis and empirical observation. So he brought in this whole, let's actually think
it just blows my mind still. It just blows my mind still that there was a period when you wouldn't observe.
Yeah.
I get we've become a lot more scientific in the medicine.
A little bit.
But the whole observe the body, wow.
Yeah, and actually, and measure it and shit, like make rigorous observations, record them and make comparisons.
Yeah.
This was not a thing, or at least it was only just becoming a thing. So this is a radical thing by Mr. Wunderlich. Sorry, Professor Dr. Herr Wunderlich.
Wunderlich.
Sorry, Herr Professor Dr. Wunderlich. And so he had a few syndromes named after him. So one of the first ones was Wunderlich syndrome. And you all heard of it. And I didn't realize this until I read it. It's pretty much kind of a thing I had.
You've got it?
Is
it contagious? I don't want it.
No, unless you touch my kidney.
Should we be doing this with masks on?
Yes. Not in our faces though. Yeah, it's a thing where one of the ways they put it in his own words was renal apoplexy, so kidneys going all wrong, exploding and shit.
You could claim that now. So you had Wunderlich syndrome.
So I didn't realize I was.
You nearly died in a Van Halen concert from Wunderlich syndrome.
Because of this German son of a bitch. Because he invented it, I got sick.
I don't blame him. He diagnosed it. He's helping you. No, don't blame him. He helped you.
But anyway, so there's things related to that particular condition, often called renal angiomyolipoma. For those of you playing along at home,
I'm not. I forgot that word.
That's what I actually had though. So and related to this, but his biggest influence was definitely on medical thermometry. Medical thermometry. You didn't know that was a thing?
No, I did because you can.
May have flagged it.
Yeah.
So he has Wunderlich's law, which is to do with temperatures.
Don't drive on the wrong side of the road. Don't murder your aunt.
Don't drive too hot. This is all about temperature and typhoid fever.
Oh, yeah.
So this is in 1868. He came up with this, and I got to read him because it's worth it.
If they have typhoid and their temperature is above 40,
that's bad.
That's bad.
If it's under 30, that's not great either. Summarized down to if you have typhoid, that's bad.
Yeah, I think you probably skipped the temperature bit, but anyway.
This is before he got really precise. This is merely 6. Any disease in which the temperature reaches 40 degrees on the evening of the first day is not a typhoid fever.
Really?
Apparently.
Okay, so you can rule out typhoid if they get to 40.
On the first day.
Oh. But how do you know it's the first day? What if they took a while coming in?
I don't know.
They're on their horse and cart from a while
What are you,
ago.
a medical philosopher?
I'm just asking questions here.
I know. I'm not Wunderlich. I just had his syndrome maybe.
So on the second day it can reach 40.
Well, it doesn't go on. It just says that.
That's it? That's the law? That's not a law.
Law 2.
Okay.
Any illness in which the temperature does not reach 39.5 degrees on the evening of the 4th day is not typhoid. There'll be a test at the end. This is what this.
I really thought you were going to go. Any illness that does not reach 39.5 on the 4th day is not worth worrying about.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Get over yourself. No, it's not typhoid, according to Wunderlich's law. 3, in typhoid fever, the maximum temperature is first shown in the evening. Because I know you're not supposed to remember this. This is pretty much all about 5 and 6. 4, on the 7th day, there is a drop in temperature which never goes back to normal. Which is a little imprecise, but I see what they're saying. 5. Now you'll get this. You'll love this one. Defervescence is always done by lysis.
Defervescence.
Yes, is always done by lysis.
Is that the bubbles in your ears?
I really don't know. Do you?
I don't know the second word either.
No, neither do I.
Defervescence does sound like an 80s parody metal band. Though.
Yeah. It's not Evanescence, it's Defervescence.
Yeah, it's not a real metal band, but
yeah, we're loud and we have bubbly personalities. So defervescence is always done by lysis. I don't know what that means. And finally, law 6. These laws are by no means absolute.
They're not laws. Like, you can't say law 6 is they're not really laws. I was a bit presumptuous.
Yeah, that was my favourite. I was reading him going, oh, that's a bit boring, but then I got to law 6 and thought, no, that's tops. So here are my laws, except when they're not. You're like, dude, I don't think you understand laws. But this was a temperature-based thing that's been named after him and has continued to be named after him. I don't know if it's still considered accurate, but then again, when you hear it, accuracy is kind of a bit vague.
I think just giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
He's in a period where the actual diagnosis of diseases is far more complicated because they don't have blood tests, microscopes, diagnosis, those kinds of things.
Concepts
and so
of
they're looking for some sort of way to say, okay, is this typhoid or not?
Yeah.
And so, if we look at all of the temperature charts of these patients, maybe we can say something.
Yeah. And you're right. And given those laws, you could definitely go through the 1 to 5 and go, I think it is, and then look at law 6 and go, but maybe it's not. It is it or it isn't or it is or it isn't.
This is a Rule 6 class.
You're going to open those beers.
I will.
And I'm going to keep telling stories. So, medical thermometry. Let's get into it a bit further. It existed for a while before Wunderlich, but he kind of became the guy. So, mercury thermometers had been used ever since Fahrenheit built them, so 18th century. But clinical thermometry was a little bit lower. So, doing it at all existed, but using it clinically was not that common.
Wait. So we had medical thermometers.
But they weren't being used clinically, like to diagnose disease.
Then they're not medical thermometers. It's just telling you the temperature in the doctor's office.
Oh, no, you're like, how hot's that person? 73. Cool. Anyway, what's your problem? Like not making the link between the temperature and the particular pathologies.
I know it takes a while to discover just about everything.
Everything.
But Jesus, the fact that they've got them and they're using them for medicine that's not actual medicine.
Well, they weren't using them for medicine. That's the thing. So they could measure people's temperature, but they didn't really connect it with anything that, like, empirically useful.
Then why are they doing it?
I don't know.
I'm still baffled by this thing.
Bored. But it's interesting, isn't it? So it's like, we can measure your temperature. What do you do with it? I don't know. But I can tell you. This instrument's pretty damn good. It tells you that you're at 48.6 megajoules.
The clearest example of the showing off about your shiny machine. My machine can do stuff, but is it the point here? Who cares?
What's it for? I don't know, but it does it. So it wasn't. So the clinical use of it wasn't that big before him. So a similar kind of time, there were a couple of dudes, a guy called Herman Boerhaave and a couple of his students. They started to use it a bit medically, and one of them noticed things like the changes during the day of people's normal temperature, and they related that to shivering and fever, and they noticed that when people had a higher temperature, they tended to have a higher pulse, so they started to make these very basic connections.
Yep.
So things to us, it's like, who even needed to stop to think about whether that was a thing? Someone had to start doing that, and so these guys went, oh, wait, when they're hot, their pulse goes up. That's interesting.
I'm okay. I recognise that. That's fair.
But this is what we're talking about, the clinical bit. So these guys going, what if we see what this might be an indicator of? And that was really not common until 18th century rather. And so these guys found out the temperature could have been a valuable indicator of the progress of an illness. So they were pretty excited. However, apparently the contemporaries of this guy and his students were not that impressed, and so clinical thermometry wasn't that used. It's like, yeah, that's great,
that's
mate.
Boring, mate.
Anyway, back to, have you had impure thoughts or looked at your neighbour's wife? Then you're sick because you've got the demons. So I think that's interesting. It's exactly that. Like, if you flick over it, you don't even think about the fact that you've got to make the decision that this could be a useful instrument, that this thing that isn't the same could indicate something else. So it wasn't until late 19th century that this thermometry deal in clinical terms got a little bit of traction. So Wunderlich was the main guy. There were a couple of others who had a crack. British Army Medical School fella had a go. A guy called William Aitken, and he tried to reinvent clinical thermometry, and one of the problems was the only thermometer they could use was 12 inches long. I know. There are many places you can take your temperature.
I just look, or if you're a horse, like
you can't take your temperature with a horse.
No, you can't. Seriously, 12 inches.
Yeah. So I know where your mind went, but often armpits were popular.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Not only.
Yeah, sure.
And they weren't putting these under your tongue.
I get it. They can't. Okay.
Yeah.
Still.
An English physician called Thomas Albert, he improved this. He created a more efficient and portable 6-inch thermometer in 1866.
Everything gets smaller over time, but yeah.
Not everything.
There you go.
My stomach doesn't.
Yeah, nice.
But Wunderlich was the guy. No one went anywhere near the amount of data that he gathered. Like, this guy was a freaking machine. So,
what's he collecting?
And I'll tell you, he preferred the old school thermometer, so he preferred the foot long.
Of course, it's more accurate.
It's old school too. My dad gave it to me.
And you feel like you're doing something real there. You know, these little 6 inches, they're just not touching the sides.
I cannot believe anything's this tiny.
Can't even read the numbers off the scale at that size.
No, you can't. You can't. It's impossible. So it would take 20 minutes to get someone's temperature.
20 minutes?
20 minutes.
Wow.
Armpit was the popular option. 20 minutes.
How is it taking that long to heat up? Like
It's
they've
slow
got it
mercury.
encased in lead.
You know, quicksilver? This is slow silver.
I get it. Wow.
Yeah.
Or it's in wood or something. It takes ages to heat up the wood.
I just don't get it. But apparently that's the story, and I believe my quote sources.
They were a more patient time back then.
Well, they had nothing else to do.
They didn't. There's no TV coming on. So,
dude, could you take a bit longer? Because where else am I going to go?
They're enjoying this. This is their special moment of getting their temperature taken.
I'm going to go to the doctor again. I just want to know.
Can you imagine sitting in the waiting room and the guy in front of you, they have to get their temperature taken before they can do anything. And they're just sitting around for 20 minutes. Jesus Christ, I'm like 8th in the line, and it's all...
Or you drop it, you're like, fuck, back again. You're 15 minutes in, you ruined it. So he took multiple readings from the armpit. There's a technical term, but I won't bother with it. From 25,000 different patients.
At 20 minutes pop. Wow, okay.
Yep, and not just one measurement each. So one source I read claimed he took more than 1 million measurements.
Good on him. He's kind of obsessed with this.
I mean, a German medical scientist with a new measuring instrument.
And he's got a habit. That's just what he does, and he writes it down. Okay.
Can I borrow your armpit? I've got this
walking around the streets, can I 20 minutes in an armpit? I'll buy you a coffee.
Borrow you for 20 minutes, and then can I come back tomorrow and do it again? Like, no, once was enough. So he took multiple readings of many people, 25,000, like shitloads of data points. Insane.
Are these all sick people, or is he?
No, not only sick people.
Okay.
And he kept records, meticulous records. So, and he wrote a book. And he was killing it. He was
I'm
killing
imagining this is fascinating. I'm hoping he's going to document every single one of these. His book is just case number 1.
Kind of. That's what I love. He didn't write a little paper telling you about it. He wrote a fucking book, and it's hundreds of pages long, called Medical Thermometry and Human Temperature. You got to figure there's not a lot to say. Chapter 2 lists 41 fundamental principles. Just chapter 2.
Okay.
41 fundamental principles.
I'm gonna guess. Keep your thermometer clean.
Yeah, it's not in there.
Nearby.
No, proximity does not come into it.
Armpit. Give me some.
I'll give you 2.
All right.
Because they're relevant to further stories. So principle 1. Let's start with principle 1. 2 facts justify the physician in using the thermometer everywhere, as in many cases, not in every hole you can find.
Yep.
Oh, maybe both. The invariability of the temperature in healthy persons, that's one fact. There is an invariability of temperature in healthy people.
Yep.
And its variations in disease. So
So he's saying ethically there's a right or a responsibility, or we should go out and measure this because it'll show us something.
Yeah.
If it's different, it's diseased. If it's not,
according to my data, basically there's an invariable temperature in healthy people, and temperature definitely will vary with many diseases.
Sure.
So that's,
and I get that we have taken that as such gospel now. That we learned that in primary school.
Hugely. We really have. And so, I mean, so what are the ranges of this invariable temperature of healthy people? Depends whether, for example, you want to go oral, rectal, or tympanic, ear.
Oh.
You know, in hospital now they put that little thing on your eardrum or your ear bit.
Yep.
So there are variations.
Or you do the forehead.
Yeah, and the last time I was in hospital, and every time when they didn't stick it under your tongue, it turned into the ear one. Tympanic, always tympanic.
Yeah, I've had a lot of the ear one, the tympanic, but I think depending on what they want, but
the stun gun.
The fact that the stun gun doesn't require any touching, and there's no plastic waste.
I don't want to be touched in hospital. It's disgusting.
No, I don't mind being touched in hospital. I just think we can limit we can limit the disease transfer.
Yeah, it's true, and also it's quick doing it that way. So there's a bunch of different ranges.
So you're saying that the 36.5 to 37 depends on where you're measuring it?
It can do.
Like the anus might be higher temperature than the tympanic ear, than the forehead.
Yeah.
Or lower.
Literally.
I'm just going to go with different. Let's go with different.
So if you look, and this is kind of flagging something that will come in a moment, if you compare those 3 areas of measurement, oral, rectal, and ear hole, mouth hole, butthole, and ear hole, we'll call them, for the people playing along at home.
They are 3 holes.
You can compare them between men and women, and they differ.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Should I guess here? Is this going to be...
Fuck, what an interesting game that would be. Especially given it goes to 1 decimal place.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, this matters. So, for example, oral temperature in women ranges, they reckon, between 33.2 and 38.1.
That's a large variation.
Rectal in women, 36.8 to 37.1.
So less variation in there. Depends how much you're breathing in your mouth, I guess.
In your rectal?
What I'm saying, there are more variations.
Oh,
when you're breathing in a lot. Like
you came in a bit late on that.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know if the rectal would vary less or more. Like if your rectum's varying more, maybe it's like
I say rectal, you say it depends how much you're breathing through your mouth. I mean, I don't know how you're wired, but and tympanic is kind of in between. So for women, 35.7 to 37.8, so hotter at the top end, and in between at the lower.
Yep.
And it differs for men as well. So you've got these ranges.
Are men or women hotter?
Women tend to be hotter.
Okay.
Particularly if they are doing the menstruals.
Okay, yep.
So
and women in general hotter, and mouth more variation, which I can understand. That's not going to be a useful diagnosis. That's why you want to go for the ear or the rectum. But you got to ask really. You got to ask really nicely.
That's my go-to as well.
Rectum.
Can we try the ear?
Have you ever done it in the ear before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not true, but it makes me. I feel so much cooler saying yes. So when you look at generically temperature ranges, so like at 44 degrees centigrade on average, the argument is you're pretty much almost certainly going to die. Although our buddy Willie Jones didn't. He got
look, I've just got to say, if anyone around me is at 47 degrees, 46, 44 degrees, I'm worried. I'm very worried.
Yeah, you shouldn't be just sort of ice baths.
You're cooking an egg on that person.
Yeah.
I mean, trying that first, then you call the ambulance.
The egg cooked on his head. Bring him in. Or rather, hold on. So when you get down to about 42, people will start to turn pale, remain flushed. They may become comatoses at 42.
Yeah.
Severe delirium, vomiting, convulsions, blood pressure might be really high or really low. Heart rate will go up. So 2 degrees, it's a variation of 2 degrees down to 42. If we drop down to, let's say, 39, and we're averaging across men and women and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. 39, severe sweating, flushed and red, fast heart rate and breathlessness. There may be exhaustion. Children and people with epilepsy might be very likely to start convulsing.
Oh, wow.
At 39.
Yeah.
It's insane. So then you get to, say, 37 about normal, and you go down the other end. So 34.
But that's not common. I don't think 34 is only if there's been an external thing that
cools you.
Yeah, that cools you, surely.
Yeah, you don't really get a reverse
Is there
fever.
a disease that ever fevers you cold?
I don't think so. Also, extreme blood loss will drop your temperature.
Sure.
When I had the Wunderlich syndrome related thing, and I had a lot of blood loss, I was freezing. I was freezing for weeks. There's no way to get warm.
As in you felt freezing, or your temperature was literally freezing?
I don't know. They were taking my temperature, but I was a bit too whacked out to
It's
tell.
just that sometimes when you feel freezing, you feel freezing, but your temperature's high.
My feet were definitely cold. I remember I don't normally run cold, and I could not get my feet warm. It was summer, and I could not get my feet warm. I was freaking freezing. But I don't know if it was my core temperature or not. But I gather eventually that will be the case. You lose blood, you just can't heat yourself. So at 34, severe shivering, loss of movement of fingers, blueness, confusion, some behavioural changes, etc. 32, you get into the level of medical emergency. So technically 5 degrees below. Hallucinations, delirium, confusion, sleepiness, progressively turning into a coma. Shivering is gone. You stop shaking at that point, and you may have basically low or zero reflexes. By 31, you're rarely conscious. You're probably going to start losing your heart rate, et cetera, et cetera. So a few degrees is extremely significant. And then once you get down to 24, 26, you're likely to die.
You've been a Swedish medical student under the ice for 80 minutes.
Unless you're in danger.
Still amazing.
Principle 1, though, is kind of being violated already. Like there's a stable, there actually is variation in a healthy.
Sure.
It's not invariant.
Sure, but there's bounds that are pretty small.
There seem to be.
Like the fact that we eat food at a much wider range than we are dead from cold, dead from hot.
But the claims made about temperature in some claims isn't an unfair word, but like the extrapolations on data made around temperatures get down to 0.1 of a degree or less. So it's a 0.1 of a degree can matter.
Yeah.
Therefore, any kind of variation that's kind of laughed off, so to speak, could matter. So this is his first principles, maybe a little bit not perfect. A second principle, this is only the second one I'll mention out of the 41, is number 4. A normal temperature, I could read them all, but I won't. A normal temperature does not necessarily indicate health.
Oh, of course not. You could have a sprained ankle and have a normal day.
That's
Sure.
true. Or, yeah, all kinds of things. But all those whose temperature either exceeds or falls short of the normal range are unhealthy.
Yeah, I'm buying that.
Well, that one's where it gets more dangerous, or not dangerous, wobbly, because what constitutes a normal range, it turns out, is not that clear.
All right, give it to me then.
So more recent studies, for example, they looked at Wunderlich's data, and more recent I mean, like 20th century. He basically said the upper limit of normal temperature is actually about 38 degrees, which is higher than is commonly accepted today in the terms of temperature, quite a bit.
Yep. He was not as accurate maybe with his 12-inch.
Well, that's speculation is, yes, maybe his 12-incher wasn't as accurate as it could have been. It's just a blunt instrument, 6 inches, you can do something with that. 12 inches, blunt and clumsy.
Yeah.
That's what they say about thermometers. Also, statistical analysis wasn't that common until the 1890s.
Yeah, okay.
So the way he actually made distinctions...
So he did his million measurements, but then just did a rough rule of thumb.
Yeah, more of them.
I feel like I've had more of the 37s than the 38s.
He forgot his p-values and his confidence intervals because he didn't know what they were, and maybe they hadn't been calculated. So that's an issue. But more interestingly, so in 2017, there was a study in the British Medical Journal. 35,500 patients found that our average body temperature declines about 0.03 degrees Fahrenheit every decade. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but there's a noticeable
give me that
trend.
In Celsius. 0.03. That's a tiny bit of a degree.
Yeah,
and so it's still going to be a tiny bit of
it's a tiny amount,
Celsius.
But it's a measurable, clear trend that our body temperature declines as we age. Roughly every 10 years, we slowly drop. So it's not consistent, and if it starts to wobble, depending on how you define the range and how close you define it, that can matter, particularly if you're talking a number of decades difference. People with a higher BMI, body mass index, tend to run hotter than thinner people.
Yep.
Body temperature can fluctuate as much as about 0.2 centigrade throughout the day. And again, 0.2 sounds small, but it can matter. So everyone's temperature fluctuates throughout the day. That's normal. Core temperature changes. We're not talking getting a bit sweaty. We mean core temperature. Women have a higher temperature than men, as I said earlier, depending on their menstrual
That one.
menstruations.
Aren't you very good at that? You're being very woke and inclusive.
I'm very good at the ladies' science. No. This is where I say some of my best friends are women.
I'll just leave it for you there. I'll just leave it for you.
Our body temperatures also vary with weather, our level of physical activity, what we've eaten, etc. So
no, I don't believe any of this.
I know. So we know all this, but the thing is that can all make a difference if you're measuring it clinically. And also, on average, some people may basically run half a degree hotter or colder than most folk and be perfectly healthy. So that could also matter.
What's your average temperature when you take a temperature?
About 40.
Really?
No idea.
No idea. You don't take your temperature very often.
Well, look, do I do it to take my temperature? No. But could I find that out? Yes.
What are we saying here? What are we saying here?
Where do I put this?
So this is not a fun activity in your household.
I honestly,
let's take temperatures.
The last time I took my temperature regularly was, in fact, coincidentally, again, when I may have had something to do with Wunderlich syndrome.
Whether it was regularly or not. When was the last time so you had your temperature taken when you went into the Apple store?
36 and a bit, I think.
Yeah. All right.
But I'm so cute. What about you?
Yeah, I average 36.5.
Fuck yeah, you do.
That's where I am.
We're gonna talk about that in a moment. Not just you in particular.
That's my forehead. That's not a rectal measurement. It's a big call to turn.
Yeah, the Apple store gave me the option. They said, "Do you want to get in really quickly, or do you want to wait 10 minutes?"
We've got the 12-inch right here.
I'll take the 10-minute wait, thanks.
As a thing for checking around the family and let's get the temperature and see who's sick and let's just test it all. Getting out the rectal, it's a.
I'm just imagining the kids at school. Sort of how was your Friday night? Oh, we gathered around. We took our temperatures. Like kids blink twice.
Show me on the doll.
So they say in this 2017 study, most variation in baseline temperatures remain unexplained by commonly measured health variables. So there are variations that you can't necessarily tell. What means is basically a baseline temperature that's healthy for one person may differ for others.
It's almost like it's just different.
Yeah, and it's almost like the standard ain't so standard. But here's my favourite. This is the reason, actually, I thought this was worth talking about at all, other than it's been fabulous.
No, it's cool.
From a study published this year, January in 2021, in the journal eLife, humans are cooling down.
What?
We're becoming cooler.
No. How is that possible?
I know it took a while to get you to the spurt point, but this is it. Humans we are on average cooling down, according to this study. So average body temperature from an American study, it's dropped about 0.02 degrees every decade since the 1800s. 0.02 every decade.
It must be the abortion ban.
Yep.
Or diesel. Or mobile phones.
The diesel ban on abortion and mobile phones.
What the fuck? Okay, there's a little bit of shenanigans on the data. Let's just say that the data weren't so accurate in the 1800s.
Oh, we'll get into that.
Okay.
So American men born in the 2000s measured on average over half a degree C cooler than men born in the early 1800s. And over
half a degree is a lot.
0.58 in fact.
Are we cooling faster than the planet is warming? No, okay, we've done
Wouldn't
one.
that be handy?
The planet has done 1 degree since,
the planet's
since
ahead
industrial.
of us. Yeah,
so
beating us.
all right.
Women born in the 2000s are similarly, not quite as cooler. They've dropped by 0.32 degrees.
Well, guys are obviously cooler.
Or, at least, or needed to become cooler.
Yeah, that's true. There you go.
So we've dropped more than women, but comparatively speaking, it's quite noticeable.
That is weird.
Yeah. So the lead author on this, she's from Stanford.
And this is, just checking, this was adults?
Adults.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. So the lead author is a woman called Julie Parsonette, professor of medicine and health research and policy. So she and her co-authors got...
It's fine. Get her title right.
Okay, I'll try again. Dr. Julia Parsonette, a professor of medicine and of health research and policy at the Stanfords. That's what she calls it, the Stanfords.
Really?
No. So she and her co-authors got 3 data sets. So the first was data from 1862 to 1930, and they got that from the Union Army Veterans of Civil War. Yeah, tree rings. Civil War, we need that doot for other podcasts. So Civil War stuff, 1862. Oh, you got it?
I've got the button there.
For those of you who don't listen to everything we do. Second data set was from the US National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, which happened between 71 and 75.
I'm going to trust that one more than the Civil War ones.
Yep.
Not that I'm not going to trust the Civil War one. I just
You love the Civil War. Of course you trust it.
I trust it somewhat.
Isn't it one of your favourite wars?
It's one of the more interesting wars. What I'm saying is that in terms of the data sets, if you show me a difference between the 70s and now, I'm going to trust that a fair bit. If you rely on the Civil War data to show it, I'm going to say that maybe there was a problem back then.
I think that's a fair thing.
And probably, I'm going to guess that the authors
had to think about
how to think about that.
So second data set, it said 1971 to 75. Third data set was from Stanford, a translational research integrated database environment, all in capitals. Stanford Translational Research Integrated Database Environment contains data from people who received healthcare through Stanford between 2007 and 2017. So overall, they had access to 677,000 plus temperature measurements. So they put them into magic stats models.
Not even magic.
No, just stats, really.
Yeah, it's just numbers.
How about mysterial stats?
Okay.
They saw a steady drop in average human body temperature over the years. To rule out the possibility that improved thermometer technology had skewed the data, they also looked for trends within each data set over time, and they still noticed the cooling trend.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I know. That was my response too. Like, oh, you fuckers, I thought I had you.
So 71 to 75 was one of them. So that's a short period to be able to know. I'm guessing it's fairly small, but a large number of recordings.
Yep. The oldie data was 1862 to 1930.
Huh.
That's quite a few decades. So they did within the 3 data sets they checked for the trend, and then combining the data sets. So the trend existed within and
they checked against age, because you did say that we lower our temperature as we age.
Yeah, they controlled. The cooling appeared to occur regardless of the type of technology used, and basically the quote is, our temperature is not what people think it is. We all grew up learning that normal temperature is 37, and that is wrong. We as human beings have evolved and we've physiologically changed, says this lead author, which is interesting. And it echoes results from a study in 2017 in England, which also showed over 250,000 temperature measurements from more than 35,000 patients that there was a temperature drop. So it's so far, this is very recent, being verified.
So it's verified, but
so far
we don't know why. It's not that.
Oh, you want to know why?
I do want to know why. Are we getting older? Is it because we're getting older?
Why do you want to know why?
Because that's the whole freaking point.
You're an inquiring mind.
I want to know if we can stop it or if we need to worry if we're going to get down to absolute zero at some point.
Exactly.
We'll all freeze.
2,000 years just can't move.
You know, this is the slow Thanos snap. Like it's just, it takes 10,000 years, but gradually you'll all cool to death.
No, science isn't about why. So why is it happening? According to Parsonet, it's still a mystery.
Good.
But I love the quote. We really don't understand what this cooling means in humans, what it means to our health, and what it means to our longevity. But they speculated. So we have no idea. Anyway, here's some ideas.
Cars.
Yep, cars.
Sedentary lifestyle.
Because we drive.
Screens. Western diets.
You have managed to not hit any of them.
Really?
Well done.
Skipping a lot.
Skipping. How did you know?
Jump rope for heart.
So one of the things is...
lace-up shoes?
Yes, that as well. You've got all of the ones that isn't. Keep going. I reckon you could hit none of them. So this is speculation, but they say maybe it could be a historical decline in infectious disease rates because as you're infected, you inflame and inflammation, like raising temperature is a baseline indicator
so
of
we're saying
inflammation.
that the baseline after the Civil War or, 150 years ago, people just had diseases endemically that we might not have even been noticing. And we're a cleaner, healthier population.
Yeah, higher levels of baseline inflammation.
Sure, we're approaching, and so peak human perfection of cleanliness from the environment.
God, we're beautifully clean. We're deliciously
exactly.
clean.
Maybe,
so
okay.
close.
All right, I'll pay that.
But that also, she says, I'm leaping ahead slightly, but I'll get back to it, is, she assumes that we would eventually this would even out because it's only so clean you can be, or so uninflamed you can be. So exactly kind of what you're saying.
No, there's not. Peak. We can hit perfectly uninflamed.
Perfect cleansy.
I am assuming
but not perfect zero temperature though. So if you get perfectly uninflamed, your temperature's not going to change anymore.
Our temperature will get to the baseline human level. There is a perfect level.
That's what she's saying. Like you'll probably get to a point where it won't drop anymore.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. You agree with her?
I'm down on that.
You are with the
I'm down with everything she's saying. I recognise that she is by far more the expert on this. I'm not quibbling.
Suck up. You don't know her. She could be useless.
No freaking quibbling here.
She also said, unlike our ancestors, many of us live in temperature-controlled environments, so we don't have to work as hard to maintain our body temperature. So that may have an influence. People living in regions beyond the UK and the US, however, seem to maintain different body temperatures. So there's differences across humanity. For example, a study in Pakistan that shows this.
Oh, so Pakistan, but they're showing the decline.
Less so. So
they have air conditioning in Pakistan.
Yeah, but not as many of them. I don't know. I've never been there. I'm not even sure it's a real country. I've no idea. I've never been. I've no proof.
Definitely real.
Okay, then have you been there?
I've looked at it.
I've looked. I've looked at it. Eye contact.
I've seen Pakistan from across the border.
They have a cricket team.
Yeah,
okay, you've been close enough. Okay.
It doesn't really count. It's not like being in the airport, but
closer than me.
There's a border. India and Pakistan they slam the gates every night.
Don't they?
At the Wagah border, and I've been there and watched the gate slamming close.
That's good enough for me. Yeah, okay, I believe Pakistan exists.
Yeah, exactly.
I believe
over there is Pakistan.
The evidence is my expert witness right in front of me. So there does seem to be some difference between populations or countries who may have differences in inflammations, etc. So it's interesting. So it may be something to do with microbes, etc. So for individuals, at the individual level, it's extreme temperature changes like fever or hypothermia that really matter in terms of an individual's health. On a grand scale, on a population scale, for example, average body temperatures may continue to fall as evidence advances and life expectancies increase. So yes, partly what you flagged. As the average life expectancy grows...
I told you, I did flag it.
You're very clever.
It was skipping.
You should have a PhD. Not in this, though. Definitely not in this. So the big link really they're saying is potentially the marker of state of inflammation.
Yeah.
And that's what they think could be going on. So that's... Bottom line there is really body temperature ain't the gold standard that you think it is, and that's probably not a bad thing.
But it's the silver standard.
Silver will do, yeah. Maybe bronze at times, depending on the country.
You know what, though? I do think that as somewhat of a gold standard, no one applies it as a hard and fast, a precise number. But
no one? Colloquially, I think we do.
I would struggle to find anyone that says, okay, so 37.0 is the standard temperature. I'm taking to the doctor at 37.1. However,
yeah, that would be.
However, I think people have a pretty good approximation. They go, all right, I saw it 39. Ooh, that's ouchy.
Yeah.
38.5, we're going to start thinking about it. 40, we're going to panic. I think people have a pretty good understanding of the range and when to start panicking here. So I don't think we need a hard and fast number.
It's not the end of the world. No, it's not the end of the world. And I mean, look, if we go back to our buddy Wunderlich, what they're really the main thing people have argued he's contributed is not temperature in general, but just the fact that he said, look, the fact that fever would be recognised as a clinical sign rather than disease in and of itself.
Yeah.
So a fever could indicate many, many things, not just fever is a sickness.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So that was a big deal. And also his meticulous measurements and so forth and, clinical pedagogy.
Million measurements.
Yeah, measurements.
With his 12-inch.
But what I think is really interesting about this sort of stuff is just it's another example of squishiness of measurement and how we get really hung up on numbers.
What? No, you don't have opinions about that.
None at all. But if I did, like channeling someone I've met, not me, it's the classic, what is it? We measure what we value, we end up valuing what we can measure. And I think, it's not mine quote.
Stop it.
Obviously I nicked it. But also more interesting for me is that the idea that the mean doesn't necessarily mean a lot. Your averages don't necessarily mean a shitload. And if you take it back to one of the authors of this study, Catherine Lay, she's also at the Stanfords, she said, look, maybe it's better that instead of a set number like 98.6 Fahrenheit, it would be better if there was a sliding temperature scale for individuals to figure out what's normal for their demographic. So she says, if I go into the doctor and I'm 30 and I have a BMI of 20 and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there will be a normal series of characteristics that would be.
Yeah, look, people should have it like tattooed on their wrist. Here is my average temperature fluctuation during a day. Please notice against this when I'm.
Well, here's what it was when I was between 10 and 20, and here's what it was between 21 and 30.
Calm down. And this is why medicine may still be a craft. It may still be
exactly
that it cannot be purely scientific because we have to go, all right, I'm seeing a lot of signs here that say you're up to 40 plus this plus this plus this
ish plus a little, yeah. But I mean, I think it's important to remember this like regularly because it's coming back to what they call it personalized medicine. I'd call it idiosyncratic medicine. As you turn up, you have a constellation of symptoms and characteristics that would be unique, and that may, depending on the disorder, have a profound effect on how to handle it.
It's a craft.
Yeah, I got no problem with that. It's a craft that could be science influenced.
Oh, absolutely. There you go.
And so this for me is temperature. Body temperature is a classic. I mean, as I said, the thing that really dragged me to this was we're cooling.
I love that.
That's nuts.
I love that.
So let's look into it a bit further. And of course, yes, it plays to my pre-existing biases that we get too caught up in means and measurement and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I think that's cool. All right,
listener, if you have a 12-inch thermometer, we'd love if you
send us a photo.
If you could, no, don't send us a photo because that's do what you like. But measure yourself.
Send us a photo of you measuring yourself.
And over like 12 months, every single day, a few times a day, and just document for us. Is your temperature dropping?
Or increasing? Are you going against the trend?
I love that. I love that it's dropping. It is so cool.
Humanity is cooling.
I just love these big long-term phenomena that are unexplained. I got another one on that one for you soon, actually. The Wholesome Show is me, Will Grant, him, Rod Lamberts, brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science.
And against means.
Yeah, but we like means a bit.
A bit.